Thank you very much for everybody to attend. Could I just call for any apologies, please?
Yeah, apologies from Councillor Graham Thomas, Chair.
Thank you very much. And are there any disclosures of personal and prejudicial interest, please? Anybody? No? No, thank you. Okay. Now for item 3, we have 2 sets of minutes, which you have in your papers. The first one is the 15th of October, and the pages are 1 through to 3. Could I just ask you to double check and show me that the record is correct, please?
I propose we accept them.
Thank you very much. Nobody objects? No. So it's unanimous on that one. And then the second set of minutes are for the 21st of January meeting, please, pages 4 to 7. Again, if everybody could just confirm that the record is correct. Oh,
Suppose we accept.
Oh, accept. Thank you very much. All accepted. Yeah. Okay, item 4 is the meeting which we have had most people, but today we are welcoming Councillor Peter May. Please welcome. I'm not sure, would you like to be introduced to the members of the Standards Committee, Peter? Yes?
Yes, that'd be fine. I'm the leader of the smallest group on the council. It's a statutory size of 2. So there's it's myself and my deputy leader is Councillor Irene Mann with the Uplands group. And I think we might have a cat because we've got to have somebody to manage as well, having a leader and a deputy leader. But even though we are a small group, we do obviously hold sort of certain positions in proportion on various council committees, not as many as the larger groups can benefit from. But our focus normally is being more of community activists, as we don't have the committee places. But we're hoping to double our group, obviously, in a couple of months' time.
If I could, then can I call on Margaret? Could you just give a quick overview to introduce yourself to Peter? Margaret, sorry, you're on mute.
Hello there, sorry about that. My name is Margaret Williams, and I'm an independent member on the committee, and this is my sort of extended time on it, and I've been on since 2015. Thank you.
I can ask Taylor, please.
You're very quiet, Chair.
Sorry, I think you said me, but I'm not sure.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, you did. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Hi, Peter. My name is Michaela Jones. I'm an independent member on the committee since 2017. Thanks.
And again, if I could ask Mike Lewis, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Councillor May. Mike Lewis, co-opted member and also Vice Chair of the group. You no doubt will know Councillor Mike Lewis, so I'm sometimes known as the other Mike Lewis.
Should I ask about Phil? Yes. Phil, would you like to just...
Yep. Afternoon, Peter. Phil Crayford. I'm the Community and Town Council representative on the group, and I think this possibly is my last meeting. I've been on the group for over 10 years now, so I have to stand down in May, unfortunately. And I'm a community councillor in Llangollen.
And Mike Lewis, councillor? I'm not sure if you need to, but please do say as much or as little as you would wish. Thank you.
Afternoon, Peter. Yes, fellow councillor, and I know Peter very well. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, to actually get to what we actually do in this particular face-to-face is we've sent some questions to you. I'll just quickly read out question 1 for you. The Local Government and Election Wales Act provides leaders of political groups must take reasonable steps to promote and maintain high standards of conduct by the members of their group. We're interested to hear as to what actions you take now in terms of maintaining standards within your own group and how you are proposing to meet the new duty going forward. Peter, if I could just ask you to comment. Thank you.
Yes, certainly. I mean, the main focus on this is to obviously commit to the six values that we uphold. Obviously, openness, transparency, honesty, integrity, tolerance and respect, equality and fairness, appreciation of cultural difference, and sustainability. Myself and my deputy leader, because that's the only people in the group, as it's a small group, we can do this in the form of a one-to-one conversation, which is probably different from other groups. If we have any queries on interpretation of the standards, we obviously go to the relevant monitoring officers to make sure that we're on the right side. We have together looked as a group on at the document that's going to be coming before council on Thursday week, which will be the new Swansea standards of what's expected of a councillor as well. And going forward as well, might merge into the answer to the second question. We're a 4-member ward. I'm going to be running 3 candidates, and so I'm making sure that they are appraised of the expectations of them should they become elected, at the time. Does that cover it?
Yes, particularly I think that one of the questions that was raised last time in the case of candidates is that do you go through the expectation before they are even considered? That was a question. Yes.
Yes.
You've answered that. Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Can I just ask, please, is there any questions that any of the committee would wish to ask to Peter? No? No. If I could then, question 2, you have a copy of.
Yeah.
So the Standards Committee also has new functions under the Act to ensure that group leaders have access to advice and training to support their new duties and to monitor group leaders' compliance with those duties. Is there any support that you feel we, as members of the Standard, be beneficial either for the Standards Committee or Chief Executive Monitoring Officer in carrying out your duty, and whether we can assist you in any way? So this is an opportunity perhaps for you to say areas that you might feel which weren't there, which are now there under the Act.
Yeah.
Peter.
Absolutely. I think this one is a case to have possibly very early into the new electoral term when the Act actually comes in and it's rolling. I would stress early, because at the moment I've looked through the Act and I can't see anything that sticks out, but it's a matter of when you're actually road testing it that I think the issues will come. At the moment, obviously, in my previous answer, as explained, going to obviously the monitoring officer, the lawyers and relevant officers for advice, and I think that would be more of the same. But would I have the opportunity post-election, when obviously when the new Act's coming into force and everything? I'll also know what the size of my group will be then, whether could be anything between 2 and 4. And could I approach you by email to save another committee with any requests for assistance at that time?
That's the whole point, is the dialogue opens up for you as well more of an understanding, and therefore if we need to put anything into place,
Yeah.
that's exactly what the
Yeah,
responsibility of the Act is about. Yes, yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
definitely. As I said, it's I think we really need to road test the Act in practice before we before going. Shouldn't take long, but that'd be good if we could keep that dialogue open, because I'm sure that think things would work well that way.
I totally agree with that, because obviously, as you rightly said, that dialogue, for those that perhaps are more familiar, was always there, but this under the Act is a responsibility that if there is anything that you identify, then you ask and we will assist wherever. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Appreciated.
Thank you. Again, to our standards members, is there anybody that would wish to, on that second question, bring to Peter's attention, please? Anybody? No? No.
Does everybody get off this lightly?
Well, it's, I suppose, in a way, because as you said, you've got 4 members and 3 candidates coming up, then it might well be that areas that you hadn't really thought, oh, I need assistance on. You're absolutely right. It's not until you test the road that you'll realise, actually, I do need that. So it's a good time for you to be part of this testing. Well, not testing, but to know that you've got support. Yes, yes. But I do thank you for, we found these meetings to be very worthwhile. And of course, you introduced something not really knowing if it was going to be a success. But I know that personally, when I've been to conference, something that we do in Swansea has been used as a kite mark as being exemplar. So I'm very, very pleased. So, it's fantastic that we finally got in legislation. So yes. Yeah. But thank you very much, Peter, for your time. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, and thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. Need to stay or? Okay. Okay, if I may then, item 5 on the agenda is the standards of conduct draft statutory guidance, which Tracy will take us through, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. You may recall I have referenced this before. Clearly, the Local Government and Elections Wales Act introduces two new additional duties. One for the group leaders and one for the Standards Committee. We have been developing this draft guidance for some time. It is now out for consultation. So Welsh Government published it. The consultation ends, I think, on the 16th of May. So I'm putting this report before the Standards Committee, and I would welcome your views as to how you consider the guidance as set out is, and whether you wish me to go back with any comments from the Standards Committee. So just to remind you, there is a new duty on group leaders to take reasonable steps to promote and maintain high standards of conduct by their members, and to cooperate with the Standards Committee when exercising those duties. In addition to that, there is also a new duty on the Standards Committee itself to make an annual report setting out how it has discharged that duty, including how it has monitored group leaders' compliance with their duty under the Local Government Elections Wales Act. The actual draft guidance is appended to the papers at page 12. It's Appendix A. I don't really propose to go through it. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. You'll note at paragraph 2.5 of my report at page 9 that I've set out some particular things that you might be interested in considering, which is basically highlights some of the elements of the statutory guidance. Over the page at paragraph 2.7, I've set out that the guidance recommends that the political group leaders and the Standards Committee should agree on the form and frequency of a report from each group leader to the Standards Committee. That may be something that you will need to consider going forward, and I will raise it at the as the last agenda item in terms of our work plan going forward. But I do think as the Standards Committee will need to consider that, but that of course doesn't really impact on what your response will be to the statutory guidance. Also, I think it's quite interesting as well on page 13, the forward of the Minister for Finance and Local Government, Rebecca Evans. She makes it clear that the duty is not a panacea and will not cover everyone, particularly those that are not aligned with any group, but it is designed to be both helpful and proportionate. And the aim of the guidance and of the legislation is to stop inappropriate behaviour before it escalates into a breach of the code. So I don't think there's anything further to add. I think personally as a monitoring officer, I welcome the statutory guidance. I always welcome any guidance on legislation. I think it is quite concise. I think it's well set out and I think it is helpful, but I'll open it up to the committee as to your views and whether there is anything that you feel that as a standards committee you would like me to go back to Welsh Government with your views as part of the consultation. I should also say that I've also extended that opportunity to respond to the consultation to all the group leaders in Swansea as well. So I will be liaising with them as to whether or not they want to input into Swansea's consultation response as well. They may choose to do it individually or they may choose to do it through the council's response. So, Chair, having said all that, I'll leave it to you and the committee to now discuss whether or not you do want to respond.
Okay, thank you very much, Tracy. I'm not sure whether you've made any notes that needed to be transferred that you do have issues with or that still need clarification from you. Does anybody have anything that in relation to this, the statutory guide? Mike?
Yes. Thank you, Chair. And as ever, Tracy, a really helpful introduction. Thank you in a position of the of this consultation. And I agree with you. I think what I'm about to say isn't necessarily to be included in the feedback and in the consultation necessarily, but I think you're right, Tracy, to highlight paragraphs 2.7 of your report, and in particular the bit about the requirement on political group leaders to submit a report to us. So I'm not saying that we necessarily need to get into that today, Chair, but that is, I think, a significant change. It feels to me like that's a significant change. I know that we have introduced regular meetings with group leaders. We just had one a couple of minutes ago, and that's been really helpful. But the wording suggests something different from a meeting where they sit in front of us and give us verbal answers. A report, that I think your second or third bullet point, Tracy, talks in terms of, third bullet point, talks in terms of the committee coming up with an assessment of the group leaders' report. So that for me takes it to a different level. So not necessarily for today, Chair, but I think we need to be clear, and forgive me, I can't remember if this is in the guidance or not, how we would do that assessment, whether, what the measures are. Is it just subjective or are there objective measures? And so all this is going through my head. I'm not saying none of that is necessarily in feedback for the consultation. It's just something that I think as a committee chair, we just need to be very careful not to lose sight of this, because it will be a requirement on us and a requirement on the group leaders. So we just need to give that some serious thought, I think.
I agree. It's those meetings and what you expect from the report, isn't it? To be able to say you've done equally, the standards have done their duty if something has been identified and brought to us, and therefore the action plan. Yes. Did anybody else have anything that they wanted to say? No.
Sorry, I should just come back. Yeah, just coming back, Mike, on that point. I think what I'm proposing to do, I've also been mulling over that as well. You notice that the second bullet point I've actually put in that the Standards Committee Chair may wish to meet with group leaders periodically to review behaviour. It may be that the Chair has quite a significant role in this, as or in addition to the committee as well. So what I'm proposing to do is that when we next meet, there will be a report for the Standards Committee where you can deliberate as to how you think this will best work, and then you can come up with a way of considering how you will make sure that the group leaders are discharging their duty.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's helpful, thank you.
Yeah, can I just say then, paragraph 3 of the report does draw out the 2 questions which I think are particularly relevant. So the question 1 that Welsh Government are asking is whether the draft guidance makes it clear what is expected of the leaders of the political groups in a way that can be understood by leaders of those political groups. And then question 2 relates to the Standards Committee. So does the draft guidance make it clear what is expected of the Standards Committee in a way that can be understood by the Standards Committee? So do I take it that the Standards Committee is the view that the draft guidance is clear and does set out what is expected of both the group leaders and the Standards Committee? If you are happy that the guidance does that, then I can simply respond that it's been put before the Standards Committee and they've no further comments to make.
Okay, is that your interpretation and you would want Tracy to go forward with, please? Could I just have a show of hands? That is what you would wish? Yes? Oh, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. So the next part would be the code of conduct.
So agenda item 6 is the review of the Standards Committee terms of reference. So I'm not aware that the terms of reference have been changed for some time, but in light of the Local Government Elections Wales Act new duties, I thought it only right and proper to review the whole of the terms of reference and not just insert the paragraphs relating to the Local Government Elections Wales Act. So I have attached to the report at Appendix A a new draft of the terms of reference. Appendix B contains your current terms of reference. A lot of it, I have to say, is just rejigging how the actual terms of reference look. I have taken as a point of reference the model code, the model constitution, which has been adopted by a number of authorities in Wales. Swansea didn't actually adopt that model constitution whole scale, but I've gone back to the revamped version of the model constitution and I brought it more in line with that. So it looks more similar to a lot of other local authorities' terms of reference. So I put the composition, terms of office, quorum, chairing example right at the outset of the terms of reference, and I then referenced the role and functions of the committee at paragraph 17.6. Just to specifically draw to your attention, at paragraph 17.66 and 17.67, I have included the new duties of the Standards Committee under the Local Government Elections Wales Act. Over the page of page 34, I've also included, because this has always been a duty of the Standards Committee, but it wasn't in the terms of reference, that you will determine requests for representation in proceedings under the Council's Indemnity Scheme. Now, this references if a councillor is referred to the adjudication panel for Wales and they need legal representation at the adjudication panel for Wales, they are entitled to request that that gets funded. So again, I don't propose to go into that in detail now. It is something that I will raise with you again at the end of this meeting in terms of the work plan going forward. But again, that's something that hasn't been looked at for a considerable number of years, and I will be proposing to put the indemnity scheme in front of the Standards Committee so you can consider it. I've also then, just moving on, sorry, I've got the paragraph 17.7, the additional role of the Standards Committee. You'll see what those are set out there: the protocol of officer-councillor relations, the whistleblowing policy, the member-member dispute resolution process, and the register of members' interests. So those are additional roles of the Standards Committee outside of what statutorily they need to comply with. Just to bring to your attention one matter, 17.6.13 talks about the Standards Committee dealing with all appeals relating to the unreasonable customer behaviour policy. Now, you have dealt with one of those. I can't remember whether it was last year or the year before that. You have dealt with one of those by way of an appeal. That policy is currently being looked at. There will be consideration as to whether or not the Standards Committee is the appropriate appeal mechanism, but I'll update you as and when that policy has been finalised. It's still not finalised yet, and we'll need to go through a few more hoops before it is finalised. But it may be that I'll need to come back to you and change the procedure will be for these terms of reference that I'm bringing them to you for visibility and for you to comment on whether or not you wish to make any amendments or for myself to consider further. It will then need to go through our approval process. So a report will be taken to the Constitution Working Group and it will then go on to full council to approve it. It's only full council that can approve any changes to the terms of reference. So it really is being brought to you today as I suppose a consultation exercise more than anything else, because as I say, council needs to approve the terms of reference, not the Standards Committee. So again, I think I've highlighted everything I need to highlight, and I'll just open it up to any questions or comments from the committee.
Sorry, Councillor Mike Lewis.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just one question, Tracy. 17.7.4, register of members' interest. Is that members of the Standards Committee or is it members of council in general?
It's members of the council in general.
Didn't catch that, sorry.
It's the whole council. It's not just members of the Standards Committee. So the Standards Committee can ask to look at the register of members' interest. They can also ask to look at gifts and hospitality as well. So declarations by members as to interest and also gifts and hospitality.
Thank you. Just to clarify that point, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Thank you. Phil, did you want to comment?
Yeah, only one thing, Tracy. It's just a point of interest, really. 17.1 composition. 17.14 mentions the one community town councillor. But then when we go to 17.2 term of office, there's no reference to the community town council in that section.
No, that's very well picked up, actually, Councillor. I'll probably look at that, and I think you're right. I think that needs to be included. Interestingly, in the model terms of reference, it doesn't reference it, but I think you're absolutely right, and I will look to include that.
I mean, it sits with 17.2.2, really, doesn't it? But we aren't members of local authorities, you know. So, thank you.
No, I'll add that, Councillor. I think that's a point very well made, and I will add that.
Thank you so much. Anybody else wish to bring anything to Tracy's attention? No?
I would only like to say I think it's a great, vast improvement, Tracy, on the old terms of reference. It's set out a lot clearer and includes a lot more information of the role of the committee, which is, I think, very good. Thank you.
And I welcome that, actually, because I'll take that back to the Constitution Working Group as well for their consideration. So the recommendation is actually on page 29, Chair, that the Standards Committee approves the changes to the terms of reference, which will be reported to the Constitution Working Group and then council to approve. With that change that Councillor Crayford has suggested, and which I will take on board, are you all happy with those terms of reference and for them to go onwards to the Constitution Working Group? Can I have a show of hands, please? Yeah, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so it's item 6.
Item 7.
Sorry. Code of conduct, Facebook, item 7.
Yeah, this is me again. Thank you, Chair, and I'm grateful for Alison for putting this together, because I may have overlooked that this one was actually published. So again, this is the Code of Conduct Casebook, which was actually published, I think, in November 2021. Again, I'm not going to go through them in any detail. A couple of interesting decisions on this one. The Knighton Town Council. This is a member who shouted and used offensive language aimed at people present in a public meeting to discuss the local community's response to the COVID-19 outbreak. Members swore, bullied, and used bullying behaviour, and actually accepted a conditional caution from the police for his conduct at the meeting. The matter was referred to the Ombudsman, perhaps not surprisingly, and the Ombudsman referred the matter back to the Powys County Council Standards Committee, and the Standards Committee found that he had breached paragraphs 4B, 4C, 61A of the code and suspended the member for 6 months. So that's quite an interesting one from a Standards Committee perspective. And then the last case, again, just to highlight, and we'll need to wait to see what happens with this one, but it is a case that's being referred to the Adjudication Panel for Wales. It's a Caerphilly case, and it's a member who is a member of the Cardiff Capital Region City Deal Regional Cabinet, actually accessed confidential information by virtue of his being on the regional cabinet, which enabled him to purchase shares in a company at a low price with a reasonable expectation that he could later sell those shares at a higher value. That matter has in fact been referred to the Adjudication Panel for Wales for consideration of a possible breach of paragraph 6.1a, 7a, 11.1 and 14.1a of the Code of Conduct. So we'll need to keep an eye out on that one. But I think they're quite two quite interesting cases, actually, I think, for very different reasons.
Any further comment in respect of those, just as a point of information, anybody? No. No. Yes. So we're on 8. Awesome. 8.
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Sorry.
Yeah, agenda item 8 is just an update to the Standards Committee on the complaints that the Ombudsman is currently is currently considering, or has looked at. You will see they're all set out on page 44. There are a large number there where the Ombudsman has indicated that he is not investigating, but there are 2 matters there, both related to Mumbles Community Council, which he is investigating. So that's just there for information.
Okay. Obviously, no further comment, just for information, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And then, Chair, if I may, just it's a verbal update for me, but I have been thinking about the work plan for 2022-2023, and as I've just highlighted, I need to start thinking about the reports that the Standards Committee will have to have in front of them going forward. And I think one of the main ones will be how they deal with their duty under the Local Government Elections Wales Act, particularly around monitoring the group leaders, with a view to preparing your annual report to go to Council. Other items that I have been thinking about is a review, and again it goes back to when I was drafting the amended terms of reference. I was looking at them, and there are quite a lot of issues that have not gone in front of the Standards Committee for a number of years. That will include the Officer-Councillor Relations Protocol, which is set out in our Constitution. I think that might well be worth something that you would want to look at. Also the member dispute resolution process, whether we need to look at that and make any changes. So that, of course, the member dispute resolution process, just to remind you, is where we've got 2 members making complaints against each other, and rather than go straight off to the Ombudsman has historically always said that you should try and sort it out between yourselves. So we have drafted a member dispute resolution process, but again, it has not been looked at for some time. I think we also need to report back. You would have noticed it's in one of the minutes, I think the first set of minutes that you approved earlier on, but a report back to the Standards Committee on our email out to community councils and town councils about what training they provide, particularly financial training. We have had a number of responses, but I think it's true to say that not all community councils and town councils have responded, so we will chase those. Also, possibly looking at social media guidance for councillors going forward. I think I've raised this before, but we might need to look at whether the dispensation form needs to be updated and made simpler for councillors to understand. I think as it's currently drafted, it's perhaps not the most user-friendly. Also asking the head of HR to attend the Standards Committee and maybe give you background information on our whistleblowing policy, because that again is in your terms of reference, oversight of the whistleblowing policy. And then finally, as I've already indicated, in terms of your terms of reference, the indemnity scheme, I think, dates back to 2012, possibly as long ago as that. And again, I think that probably needs to be looked at. I'm not saying it needs to be changed, but it certainly goes back way before my time. So I think that is something that we probably need to put in front of the Standards Committee for consideration. So those are the sorts of things I'm looking at. I'll be looking at. I will draft up a work plan. I think it's probably easier, Chair, if I circulate that via email to all of the committee, and maybe you can all input into that, because there may be things that I've just completely overlooked that you think the committee should be looking at in the next year. So if you're happy with that, I'll put something together, email to all members, so you can all input into that.
Yeah, can I just ask, the work plan, does it have like a start time date insofar as when we should get together our ideas?
I think it probably would be advisable for me, just so that we know when we're proposing to take things, that I actually look at what possible dates they can be. I don't know whether we've got dates yet, but we can certainly prioritise them in terms of, as I said, I think one of the first reports you need is how are you going to monitor the proof readers? So, yeah.
I think that's
there'll be a ranking of
well, yes, of course. But equally, yes, one that is easy to monitor and therefore comment. The problem is the questions that you ask for comment on have to be robust, don't they? Yes, thank you. Any other questions before I just bring the end of the meeting?
Only one, Chair. Is this my last meeting or is there another one?
No, this is the last meeting, and on behalf of everybody, I'd like to thank Phil Crayford for the service to the Standards Committee. And you've been here since part of the committee since 2012, and has represented the community councillors' interest in Swansea throughout that time. And I'd like everybody to thank, on behalf of the Standards Committee, but also the wider council at Swansea. Thank you very much, Phil, for your time and always your attention. Thank you, Phil.
I just wanted to thank you because I've thoroughly enjoyed being on this committee. It's a shame I have to come off it because I've met some when we had face-to-face meetings, I really did meet some lovely people, and since then I've still met some lovely people whose hearts are in the right place and doing it for the right reasons. And I think the committee's worked extremely well with all the people I've worked in since I joined the meeting of the committee back in October 2012. I noticed, Chair, I was there just 14 days before you, look. And the longest serving at the moment. Only thing I can say to Tracy is, should you want me, Tracy, to be involved in the process of re-electing a new, if anybody has questions, I've got no question not to help you out. If you want to direct them to ask me any questions, if they're interested in what it concerns and how does it work, I'm at the end of a telephone to assist in anything you need to appoint somebody in my place, because I think you do need the right person, and that person needs to know why, you know. And I'd like to thank you all again, and hopefully we may bump into each other. I'll certainly see Hugh again, I know, but as a clerk of my community council, I work with Hugh, so good luck in the future, and I wish you all well.
Thank you, Councillor. I may take you up on that offer as well, but can I personally say it's been a real pleasure working with you, Phil. You've been a good laugh over the years. Thank you. Thank you so much, not just on behalf of myself, but the whole council. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. So,
the check's in the post, is it? The check in the post?
I have to say, yeah, a piece of check material. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Did say for the right reason.
I don't mind signing the declarations of interest book. It's okay.
Anyway, thank you very much. I didn't actually say hello to Oliver James. I can see you're there, so thank you, Oliver. I'll call the meeting to a close then, and Tracy will update us as and when the dates and the changes that she wishes to consider for us, and we'll come back to you. So thank you very much for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Take care, everybody. Bye.